Okay.
Could you guys mute yourselves?
Yeah, I'll mute right now. Okay. So, people still coming. Yeah.
Михаил, посмотри на Катю.
Hello.
Hey. Just a second, I'll mute people. I think we are fine. Okay, Katya, let me introduce this idea of the book of the month. It's first time we're doing this. There are many interesting knowledge in books, which is written recently, and they connect these ideas, which, this circle is basically esoteric circle, and we like to explore ideas about meditation, visualization, energy work, etc. But there are a lot of books and knowledge which connect those ideas to modern science. And I would love to explore more this side, and we start this program, this book of the month with Katya Pemberton, and her presentation is about this book. So, Katya, I give you microphone.
Hello, everybody. I like to read, and I like to discover new ideas that partially confirm my own views of the world and partially give me an opportunity to learn completely different perspectives, right? So I stumbled onto this book that's called Notes on Complexity by Theise. It's titled as Scientific Theory of Connection, Consciousness, and Being. And I want to say a little bit about Theise himself. He is a mathematician, he's a doctor, and he also started participating in this new science that emerged several decades ago that's called complexity theory. He originally was studying cells, and he was invited by his colleagues who were developing new computer games in last century, because they observed that some cells self-organize just like computer characters in the games. Like people who were creating computer games discovered that sometimes in certain situations, characters in computer games start self-organizing in groups in the ways that were not originally designed by the programmers. And that spiked a lot of curiosity. So they teamed up with people who studied self-organizing processes. And that was one of the streaks, I should say, of complexity theory studies. So Theise also is he is a Buddhist Zen practitioner. So he has a big experience of overlapping spirituality and science, mathematics and biology. And so he wrote this really brilliant, very simple book, simple in a way that it's easy to understand for a layperson like me. I have very little knowledge of math. I'm not really technically, I'm technically challenged and mathematically challenged. So for me, it was easy to read, but certain things I would skip because they have like very specific description of mathematical ideas.
Mathematical models, right?
Yeah, models or ideas. So basically, I will quote from some places of the book, but give you like a simple introduction to it. So if you would like, you can kind of expand later on yourself. So the complexity theory is a tool of understanding the existence as a whole. Basically, in the past centuries, when the science became a dominant paradigm of learning about the world in last few centuries, right? The first few centuries, people were taking things apart into elements, and the whole idea was that the universe was a big machine, and we could learn how this machine functions by taking certain things apart and then putting them together. But it turns out that in the last century or so, science started realizing that it's much more unpredictable and complex than the original thinking of physicists and mathematicians. And now they're studying systems to understand how certain qualities emerge from these systems, from this different types of systems, from cells to societies, pretty much. Human body could be an example, or ecosystem, or society. And creativity, it turns out, creativity is the essence of any complex system. It cannot be predicted all the way through, unlike the machine. And it has a potential for creative expression. Basically, it's called, the way they describe it in a very brief way is the complexity theory studies self-organizing, evolving, unpredictable, yet adaptive and self-sustaining patterns of behavior in large systems.
Oh.
So yeah, this is
It's
like a
kind
very
of
content. It's very content. I'll elaborate a little bit on that. So how did it all come to be? And this particular science, a particular modality, and what was coming before it? As I mentioned, first science was about order, finding order and
patterns, repeatable patterns, right?
Yeah, that's right. And then later, in like middle of 20th century and so on, they realized like not every process can be predictable. So they came up with new studies like chaos theory and stuff like that. These particular studies could be only done when the computers were invented. For example, he gives in the book the example of water. When water is frozen or in a glass, you can pretty much study and predict how it's going to behave, what the molecular system will be, and so on, right? But water in a whirlpool or in some other form cannot be 100% predicted.
What does it mean?
The behavior of water of the whirlpool, where these whirlpools will appear in the river, for example, and when they will pop up and when they will disappear, it's unpredictable. It's a part of chaos theory that can be only studied and predicted by models. They have to create a specific model that would pretty much simulate the behavior of certain process, of chaotic process. So this is like they're called chaotic systems. They can be observed with time and described by models, right? But the third type of system is larger system that is unpredictable and to some degree, and always evolving, so it will never be equal to the parts of the system, and it will always transform and transmutate. And when they talk about systems, larger systems, they say there are specific rules that could be applied to any of those systems, from cell organization to animal herds, or like insect, like an anthill and stuff like that, or societies, or galaxies. They talk about certain traits that could be described as rules. So first trait of any big system is complex system rather, is numbers matter, they say. Depending on, he gives an example of the anthill, or you know, a beehive. Depending on the number of participants, the behaviors are different. Let's say 20 ants and 2,000 ants and 20,000 ants will have completely different dynamic in their group. And he gives like an idea of what the healthy anthill, the community of ants, is like, and their functions. They have multiple, very, very, how should I say, distinct functions. They feed, they clean, they bury their dead, they carry, you know, they even have graveyards for their own ants from the anthill. But if the amount of ants decreases to some degree, let's say only 50 ants is left in the community, right? They stop doing all these things. They don't bury their dead. They don't feed. They don't do additional tasks. And if they start having more members of their community, these tasks suddenly start happening, and they multiply, the amount of tasks multiply depending on the amount of members. The same thing, let's say, compare village with town and mega city. There's much more functions and tasks that are performed in different sizes of the communities, right? So that's about numbers. The second one, which to me is most fascinating rule, is it's called interactions are local but not global, which means in every single system besides human society. The human society is an exception to some degree. Interactions appear not from the top. Nobody is directing the system down. It's not a hierarchy. It appears from the neighbor and with the neighbor. And all the interactions happen from one member of the community to the next, one member to the next. And he gives a very specific example, again, with the ants, how they come up with their tasks and how they perform their tasks and how they communicate with each other. Nobody tells them what to do. The queen is only because the queen does not direct ants to do anything. They only function according to their own instinctual needs that arise from their every single movement they do. They lay scent of pheromones that are read by other ants, and they have several types of pheromones. One pheromone tracks their connection to the hive, so they can find the way home. The other type of pheromone signals, oh, I found food. The third type of pheromone signals something else. And when the next ant shows up and sense those pheromones, they read the situation and they follow the trait to go get food. They say, oh, I read the letter, there's a food over there. And if the tracks are not recent, they just disappear with time and the action stops on its own. Nobody's going to that place where sugar was because no ants recently went there and left new pheromones. So again, this rule is called interactions are local but not global. So the third rule is about negative feedback prevails, which means apparently, I hope it's not too overwhelming. There's two types of feedback. Negative feedback, meaning not like bad feedback. Negative feedback is like a neutral feedback where there is no need to do something because it's already good. There is no need to change because the system is working okay. Positive feedback, meaning like, oh, I need more of something, even though it's already good, I need more of that. I'll give you an example.
Example, yeah.
Yeah, example. So negative feedback loop is, for example, our ACs work on this principle. The temperature kicks in, the AC or like a heater only kicks in when the temperature drops too low or too high. Basically, when the sensor is sensing that the temperature is within normal range that is programmed not to work, it's gonna stay quiet. It's not gonna work. It only works when the loop senses that it dropped too low. So whenever there
it's
is
going
Yeah.
beyond the normal state.
Yes, whenever there is no need for increasing energy, it's just staying neutral. It's not doing anything. I'll give you an example of positive feedback, and they're all sad and bad. Positive feedback is when it says, oh yeah, it's doing great, we have enough of this, let's make more. They give example of cancer cells which are multiplying over and over and over and over, and it says like, oh yeah, we can multiply, let's multiply more. The same thing they talk about, the stock market crashes when they say, oh yeah, we're selling, let's sell more, let's sell more. And then the systems that base their activities on positive feedback as the main source of coordination, they burn really quick. So it's all about conserving energy, conserving the resources, right? So, and then the fourth one, that's the last rule, is about necessary low level of randomness. Apparently, not the only, but one of the differences between the machine and living beings is there is always certain level of randomness that happens in every system. From genes, from the way genes sometimes make mistake and create certain other expressions by just random mistake, right? To those ants that some of them randomly wander off without looking for food or doing anything else. They just randomly go someplace to discover something, and they don't say, oh, I'm gonna do this or that. They just have no goal. They just a low percentage of ants, they just wander around. The same happens with people who just stop functioning like normal people, and they just go and wander around and discover something new, unpredictable, because unpredictability harbors creativity, harbors new unknown paths from cells to humans. It has a term, it's called quenched disorder, which means it's just enough unpredictability and randomness that the system doesn't fall apart, but yet enough that the system comes up with new creative expressions for itself. And they talk about complexity is a very beautiful balance between chaos and stability. Chaos and stability kind of pull the system in two different directions. You know, one is like stay as you are, the other one is everything is possible, but the system kind of like balances between those two. Okay, so there are two very important, I don't know, Dina, how many minutes did we want to spend?
You know, we talk for 26 minutes. Usually we have some moment to stop and ask questions and discuss, but I don't know, maybe you should add something. You're given really complicated ideas, and I really interested.
That's
I'm
one
kind of,
chapter. That's one chapter. There's four.
yeah, I kind of put already a mark for myself to listen to this book. And also I wonder what's the example, how we can project those ideas on human society. But I'm stepping off, and maybe you should complete
Okay,
this
I
part.
don't think I'll be able to complete the whole book description, but I'll give you a couple of other ideas that are very important. I think it would be like 2-hour presentation if I could do the whole book, but let's stick to our rules. So there are two, I'll try to like condense. There are two other very interesting, important principles to understanding how the universe functions. They talk about complementarity and holarchy. Complementarity being a principle of seeing the same thing from different perspectives. Let's say our body, it is, we see it mostly in regular life, like, oh, this is my body, this is me, I'm going to the store, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, our body, if we zoom a microscope into it, it consists of cells. And if you shift the perspective, you would, you know, be deep down in cellular processes, watching cells multiply, die, and this and that. And it's happening at the same time. And there's multiple levels, right? And there is not one level that is dominant. It's only dominant in our narrow perception, human trained perception. They are actually happening all at the same time. And the art of accepting all the levels of vision is bringing people for greater understanding of how universe functions. The most common way of describing complementarity is was that experiment when they were trying to see if light is particle or wave, right? They could never see it as particle or wave in the same experiment. They could, depending on the perspective of experiment, they could only see it as a wave, or in the other experiment, they could see it as particle. And they know that particle is wave, and the light is both particle and wave. So complementarity is like it's like yin and yang, you know, seeing things together. The other term that they use a lot is holarchy, which is a beautiful term, I think.
Can you repeat the term?
Holarchy, from the word whole. They talk about not hierarchy. It's the opposite of hierarchy. They talk about not some processes that are more important and processes that are less important, or processes developing from top to bottom, or the other way around, how hierarchical way of thinking and perceiving things is, you know, oh, this is important. Like, we as humans tend to think that our human societies are more important than animal societies, for example, right? But holarchy suggests that all processes are happening at the same time, and they're interweaving and equally important. So they talk about holarchy as a way of perceiving and seeing reality, you know, in simple terms. I'm not going to go into the details more. So he also gives an idea, a very detailed and very beautiful way of a boundless body, when he talks about, gives examples of how we perceive our bodies separate. I'm here, you are there, my brain, your brain, I think my thoughts, you think your thoughts, and so on, you know. And then he starts describing that the deeper we go down in a microscopic way, the more we discover that our bodies are not separate from each other.
What does it mean?
In a simple ways, like first he talks about bacteria, viruses, microbiome. I don't know if you know, but we share our microbiome with our pets. So I have a dog and a cat, and I just got a little nervous when I learned that my microbiome and their we have shared microbiome in my household, you know. But then he talks about going deeper on a microscopic level, where we exchange atoms and you know, with our planet, with the galaxies and so on. And then when he comes to a place of the basic particles, right, that exist at the same time as particles and waves in the different sides of the universe. He says, like, we exist all over the place, and so is the universe exists everywhere. So our perception, again, that we are separate beings here walking on planet Earth is very limited, you know.
It's only one level of perception, right?
Yeah, only one level of perception. So he gives a most beautiful description of intellectual life of past century that gave birth to current existing way of dominant scientific approach to gratifying the truth. Oh, it's proven by experiment, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, it is the truth. Science is the truth. I believe in science. People say, they put signs. Did you see signs in front of people's houses saying, we believe in science, Black Lives Matter, and we believe in science?
Yeah,
it's
okay.
It's a statement. So it's a most common, there's something else they say. It's the most common way of describing our connection to what's true, what's not true. If it's proven by experiment, it's true. If it's not proven by experiment, it's not true. You know, if there is no data that's measured by science, then it must not be true. So he describes how this kind of approach, and the empiric approach, came to be in 100 years ago in Viennese circle of scientists who empirical scientists and philosophers who just pushed that agenda very much so. Meanwhile, it was already at the same time, the quantum physics was already developing. But it was never, the view of quantum physics never became as permeated throughout the world as the view of pretty much so old-fashioned view of empiric science that we still believe in habitually, like on a day-to-day basis. He also brings up, he has a whole chapter on this amazing scientist that not scientist, but mathematician and logician who he believes to be practically as big as Einstein and one of the biggest brilliant minds of 20th century, or maybe of philosophers and logicians, who died about 50 years ago, about 40 years ago. His name, I will look him up. Nobody knows him, maybe only in very specific circles of people who, his name is Kurt Gödel. He was a German scientist who proved the theorem, that it's a famous theorem that's called incompleteness theorem, that could be summarized as if any formal system that involves arithmetic is consistent, it is necessarily incomplete. And if such system is complete, then it must be inconsistent. So it sounds very simple. He proves it by numbers. He proved it by numbers. I know I need to soon finish. But this particular theorem blows the imperialism out of the water altogether. Pretty much, if anything, in a simple language, if anything can be proven by an empiric test, this system is not complete. And any system that's complete cannot be proven by empiric testing. So he gave a huge space to metaphysics and insight that's not reachable by logic or empirical tests. He proved that this is possible, and it's a part of our, it's proven mathematically. Anyways, and so on. And then he talks about metaphysics, then how the major religious tradition of the world, their metaphysical aspects, mystical aspects, coincides with existing latest science of quantum physics and theory of relativity, how it actually bridges theory of relativity with quantum physics and so on. So I feel like I might bore you to death, so I'm gonna stop right there.
Actually, I am not bored. I don't know how other people here maybe will listen. What I feel, I enjoy listening to it because part of it because process-oriented psychology, which I practice, was founded by Arne Mindell, who was quantum physicist, and he has several books where he explains from quantum physics view, spirituality, etc. But
Dina, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I discovered when I was reading this book that Arnold Mindell did not invent this how should I say, ideas of process mind and so on. There was a mathematician and philosopher whose name was Whitehead, that his last name. He actually came up with the term process
mind.
Yeah, process mind. He wrote a book about it. So Arnold Mindell applied it towards psychology
and conflict facilitation.
Yeah, mind has been developed by the Whitehead. His name.
Also, of course, when you talk, I'm thinking that it could be applied to many areas of our life, and health and psychology, and also maybe bigger process. We're looking at the politics right now with fear, and I don't know even how to approach. What example of this complexity theory, how they use approaching practically? Do they give any example in the book?
How it can be applied practically? any single day, every single moment of your life. When you look at things, first of all, you can, that's how I feel. First of all, he talks, I skipped that whole chapter when he talks about materialism and idealism. And he himself is an idealist, and he talks about, you know, idealism gets bad rap just from old-fashioned, like grandfather ideas that come from you know, socialism and communism and so on, that idealism is some naive unrealistic thinking. But according to, you know, a lot of scientists were idealists, including like Niels Bohr, and you know, a lot of people who are hardcore scientists. They talk about matter being the cause of no, I'm sorry, mind being the cause of matter, and not the other way around, you know.
So
So
first was the
yeah,
idea, the word.
was
The
not
word.
even the word. The word is an
Not the word.
expression, and it's actually already condensed version. When the Bible says first there was a word, in other mystic traditions, there was no word, there was silence first.
Silence.
And from silence comes the expression, the word. Word meaning like an energetic expression that then becomes more dense
Material.
matter. Yeah.
Matter.
So how do you apply this towards your daily life? For example, I dare to say, you might not like it.
Right.
When thinking about conflict of Israel and Palestine, don't only think about from one perspective. Try to combine multiple perspectives.
I do it all the time.
Awesome. Well, thinking about my body, I was actually practicing today as I was prepping for this book. I was taking a walk, and I was practicing opening my body. It's like Qigong, it's very similar. You know, when you open your body to the universe, you're not separate from the universe. You perceive, you receive, and you give more consciously while you are in nature, or even here at the, you know, here by your computer. What else?
I think that's already a lot. I have more questions, but I want to open microphone and see if somebody stayed with us this complicated story. I can ask something or add something. Or...
Can I add one more thing? That
one more thing.
It was really awesome. So he talks about AI, right? Very briefly, I'm going to say something, because AI is something that people think about a lot.
Yes, AI.
He talks about the AI versus human brain. He believes that human brain is a transducer of awareness. Awareness with big letter C is universal awareness that exists everywhere, is permeating the not permeating reality, creating reality, right? And our individual consciousness with a small c is like small consciousness, right? And our brain, from idealistic perspective, does not make consciousness. How materialists think, oh, my brain makes my thoughts. They talk about brain being like a radio that receives radio waves. And there is a word for transducer. It like receives waves and transduces it into our decodes it to us, to our individual consciousness, or into our individual consciousness rather. And when he talks about artificial intelligence, he says intelligence and consciousness are two separate things. Advanced computing could be called artificial intelligence, could be extremely advanced in computing, but it's not conscious because computer would have to transduce global awareness into this AI. Instead, it's computing, it's not transducing.
It's basically taking humanity awareness and computing it, but not, we already digested this awareness into some data which they collect, and they are like second tier of digestion.
More or less.
They have some awareness. As much as we feed them, right?
I think awareness and intelligence is different terms. Intelligence and awareness and consciousness. Anyways.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay, guys, who is here and who wants, girls, who wants to ask some questions or add something or give suggestions? Damila, are you here? Olga, Lena?
I guess not too many questions.
Yeah. Aля.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand it's complicated. It's quite an experiment. Tamara wants to say something.
Yes. Только я хочу говорить по-русски. You give me permission to speak Russian?
That's fine.
Okay.
Nobody's speaking English here. I mean.
Yeah, to clarify some subject, all right? I'm sorry. Because I late, maybe I don't...
Давайте по-русски.
Давайте уже по-русски.
Yeah.
Все, перешли на русский. Мы поэкспериментировали с английским,
This
нам
very
надо.
serious subject. For
Давайте
me...
тогда уже по-русски.
Да, пожалуйста. А почему вы говорили по-английски, чтобы я опоздала, я не знаю?
Ничего страшного, мы хотели проэкспериментировать.
Ну, в какой-то момент я переведу эти беседы на английский, мне так...
Okay, no, I think I understand.
Ой, sorry. Алло, Тамара.
Вас не слышно.
Не слышим вас.
Сейчас, хорошо? Случайно
Да, sorry.
Значит, по-русски. Правильно ли я понимаю, что мы коллективные существа, и наш мозг соединен воедино, и мы воспринимаем некоторые сигналы одновременно, но разные реакции, правильно?
Ну, я вам не могу дать как бы...
Но мысль глобально.
У вас было немножко другое понимание. Вы можете повторить свой вопрос, потому что там может быть два ответа на него.
Да, окей, тогда по-другому скажем. Не обязательно участвовать мыслительным аппаратом, но быть частью общества. То есть оно влияет на тебя как масса, как стадо, как что? Понимаете, что я имею в виду?
Ну, то, что общество на нас влияет, это 100%, да.
Но вопрос как, понимаешь, независимо от нас. Так я поняла?
Ну, частично от нас это, конечно же, не зависит. Но какие-то давать жесткие ответы, типа да или нет, я бы не стала, потому что это такая...
Тогда эта книга, можешь сказать два слова, как эта книга, point этой книги и тема этого разговора?
Ну вот сейчас вы стали упоминать о том, как общество на нас влияет. Наше общество на нас может влиять на многих системных уровнях, на некоторых осознанных уровнях, на некоторых неосознанных уровнях. Через коллективное мышление, да, но у нас еще огромное количество, как сказать?
Инстинктивного состояния.
Инстинктивное,
как вы
ладно.
сказали, инстинкт, там идет понятие еда, мы идем к еде, мы туда и сюда. Мы запрограммированы все равно на общество.
Я бы сказала, что эта книжка, я так понимаю, что больше не о том, как конкретно общество на нас влияет, а о том, что одномерный подход к системам, большим сложным системам не работает, и что нужно видеть сразу много уровней. Я так говорю, как
Да, да. То есть вот сейчас
например,
так или иначе нельзя, потому что опять будет лимитация определенная. Мгм.
Но типа вот состояние отшельничества или тому подобное, это не вообще как бы не показатель чуть-чуть той книги, о которой вы говорили, правильно?
Какое состояние?
Отшельника. Тут есть
но об этом
несколько отшельников в этой системе, в этом круге.
Нет, отшельник, он может себе быть, как бы, я не совсем уверена, если можно как-то definitively сказать, ответить на ваш вопрос. Отшельник есть
Окей,
как муравей, который уползает в другую сторону и не ведет себя, как остальные существа.
абсолютно,
Мы говорили
абсолютно. В
о
этой книге
randomness аспект, да. Отшельники — это вот такие вот муравьи, которые ползут в другую сторону. Мгм.
Значит, в этой книге говорится что-то об этом?
Об отшельниках нет, но randomness, да.
Правильно. Поэтому отшельники – это определенная часть сохранения каких-то понятий без искажения того, что делают другие муравьи. Правильно
Ну,
я понимаю?
кого?
я
Если
думаю, что
отшельников
мы
можно
сейчас
назвать
говорим на разных
муравьями, да.
языках и о разном.
Да.
Да,
Если,
поэтому.
во всяком случае, то, что Катя говорила,
Да.
там не было. Мы все-таки про книжку сегодня говорим.
Да, мы не
Поэтому
хотим
я книжку не
обобщать это.
хочу до
Да,
конца
давайте не
изучить.
отходить от какой-то заданной темы, а то мы уползем очень далеко.
Ты
Есть
понимаешь,
ли
моя
вопросы
ошибка,
именно по тому докладу, который Катя дала?
да, моя ошибка, что я не сначала, поэтому я не знала, что это за книжка первая.
Да.
Ой,
И
it's okay.
второе,
Бывает. Ну,
Ну,
тогда
знаете,
смей говорить, да?
вопрос про книгу месяца, он вот новый, да, и это эксперимент в какой-то мере. Может быть, стоит в следующий раз дать за месяц название книги, чтобы народ
Хорошая
мог
идея.
прочесть, а?
Да,
И
да.
тогда мы можем как-то это сделать, какой-то
какую-то
дискашн.
тему, куда...
Или
Да.
даже вот эту книгу мы можем еще раз там через пару месяцев.
Я думаю, что
э,
лучше новую. Уже люди сами
новую.
могут прочитать. Я не думаю, что ее
Ну
надо
вот,
будет
мы, может быть, на
перечитывать.
декабрь, Катя в январе уезжает, а в декабре, может быть, мы что-нибудь обсудим еще,
Да,
дадим
я вам
книжку.
дам другую книжку почитать еще
Да.
заранее.
Если
Будет
еще
хорошо.
какие-то предложения, если еще какие-то идеи,
У меня
может быть,
есть
какую-то книжку, которую мы можем обсудить,
У меня есть еще книжки, которые есть.
у тебя есть.
Да.
Мы с тобой
Может, какой-то
поговорим.
другой еще вопрос будет? У кого-то, может, есть вопрос?
Вопросы? Нет.
Оки-доки.
Хорошо, ну вот мы дали
Спасибо.
такой доклад. Я, честно,
Ага.
спасибо, Катя. Я, по крайней мере, собираюсь загрузить сейчас книжку на аудио и послушать
Грузите,
сама.
я много чего не успела рассказать.
Да,
Там
и
было очень
я
много
чувствую, что для
интересного.
моей работы это пригодится, потому что,
Вот точно.
ну, вот эти стычки между одномерным эмпирическим подходом, где нужны вот эти повторяемые паттерны, и моим подходом, который более многоуровневый, творческий, и они у меня постоянно, и мне нужна какая-то поддержка другой, более серьезной философской мысли, чем моя. Поэтому спасибо за наводку.
Пожалуйста.
Да.
Мгм.
Если
Спасибо.
еще у кого-то идеи, комментарии. Лена, я смотрю, включилась. Нет?
Окидок.
Спасибо. Все,
Мгм. Всего
счастливенько.
доброго всем.
Всем
Счастливо.
хорошего дня.
Пока. Мгм.
Завтра астрологическое кафе у нас.